Hello and welcome to Shannon Gardens. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So in this week's video, I wanted to go and get some spring inspiration by visiting a local nursery and just seeing what plants and just see and just seeing what plants are currently in bloom. Now, these are plants that will typically, for the most part, continue blooming into spring and some even into summer. And so I'll share some different information with you guys about the plants that I'm showing in today's video and hit some highlights about each of these plants. All right, you guys, I'm so excited and can't wait to get started. So let's get to it. I first noticed the flowering vines and came across the snowdrift clematis. This clematis has white blooms in the spring with dark green foliage. It's noted for a wonderfully sweet fragrance, grows 10 to 25 feet tall and 5 to 8 feet wide, and is hardy to -10 to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're interested in more information about the clematis, please check out my video that I'll link at the end of this video and in the description. The Sunseeker Carolina jasmine is a hardier selection of a southeastern native. This has fragrant, bright yellow tubular flowers in spring with sporadic reblooming in the fall. It's recommended for sun to shade, is hardy to USDA Zone 6, grows 10 to 20 feet tall, and is drought tolerant. Next, we have the sweet osmanthus or fragrant tea olive, which is a large evergreen shrub with upright form. This is a shrub that I own and absolutely love. It has tiny, extremely fragrant flowers, grows in part to full sun, and is recommended for USDA zones 8 through 11. Now, I'll link my video about the tea olives in the description of this video if you'd like to learn more about these lovely shrubs. Now just look at the beautiful blooms on this lovely magnolia. This is a Jane saucer magnolia, which is noted as a hardy petite-sized magnolia that grows 10 to 15 feet high and 8 to 12 feet wide and has these delightful blooms in spring. The ruby loropetalum is a compact evergreen shrub with pretty bright pink flowers. This particular variety grows to 6 feet tall and wide and is recommended for full sun. The purple diamond semi-dwarf loropetalum grows to 4 to 6 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide with a moderate growth rate. It's recommended for USDA zones 7 through 10 in full sun to part shade and is covered with the pink ribbon blooms in spring. The red diamond loropetalum is noted as a mid-sized loropetalum that grows to 6 feet tall and wide. It's noted for full sun to part shade in USDA zones 7 through 10 and noted to have the reddest blooms of all cultivars. I particularly like the dark burgundy foliage on this particular variety as well. Jazz Hands White is similar to the Jazz Hands Variegated that I have in my garden. This variety blooms white in spring and continues through the summer. It's recommended for sun to part shade for USDA zones 7B through 9, and this variety is a smaller growing loropetalum at 3 to 5 feet tall and wide. The ever-red loropetalum has red blooms in late winter to early spring and is recommended for full to partial sun. It has this lovely dark burgundy foliage and grows to 5 to 6 feet high and wide in USDA zones 7 through 9. We have another magnolia here, which is the Rosemary magnolia. This deciduous tree is recommended for full to partial sun and is noted for its prolific, very late and long blooming habit, blooming up to 6 weeks in spring. It has lemon fragrance blooms, grows 10 to 12 feet tall and 8 feet wide, and is recommended for USDA zones 5 through 8. Now, just as a side note, I actually love floating magnolia blooms in water and personally think their fragrance is just wonderful. Next, we have the magical gold forsythia. This is recommended for full sun and is one of the earliest blooming plants that I notice when I'm driving around in late winter and early spring. Like you see here, the yellow flowers absolutely cover the stems in early spring. This shrub is recommended for USDA zones 5 through 8 and grows to 5 feet tall and 4 feet wide. The Passion Party Passion Frost Pieris is an early blooming plant recommended for part sun. I personally don't have one of these plants, but have been considering getting one for the last few years. This variety is evergreen, has purplish red flowers with deep green and yellow variegated foliage, and grows to 4 to 5 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide. The tiki pieris is an evergreen shrub covered with white bell-shaped blooms in early spring, with the buds often taking on a red hue. This grows in a compact, rounded form, growing to 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, and is recommended for hardiness zones 6 through 8. I think I love this next one just for the name itself, which is the Enchanted Forest Impish Elf Pieris. This variety is recommended for part sun and is a compact evergreen shrub with dark purple pink buds for winter color, blooming with bright pink bell-shaped flowers. It grows to 3 to 5 feet tall and wide in USDA zones 6 through 8 and blooms in late winter and early spring. The next Pieris is Katsura Pieris, I hope I'm saying that correctly, which is also recommended for part sun, growing to 5 feet tall and wide. It blooms in spring in USDA zones 5 through 8 and has red new growth that comes in spring and summer with lilac flower buds in winter. Now just look at this next beautiful tree, which is the Snow Fountain's Weeping Cherry. This deciduous tree is noted for full sun and blooms in spring. It has a slow growth habit, growing to 8 to 15 feet tall and 6 to 12 feet wide, and is noted as hardy and very disease and insect resistant. Next, we have the Ice and Roses Red Hellebore. This is an evergreen plant that blooms early and is a hybrid that's noted to have perkier flowers than some of the traditional hellebores. It blooms in early spring and reaches 1 to 2 feet tall and wide and is recommended for USDA zones 5 through 9. Next, we have the pink frost hellebore that blooms in January into March with two-toned pink and white flowers that mature to burgundy. It has lovely green foliage with a silvery sheen and grows 12 to 15 inches tall and 24 inches wide. It's recommended for part sun to shade and is cold hardy to USDA Zone 5. The Beaming Blush Hellebore is recommended for part shade to shade. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention is that hellebores are deer resistant, and I can attest that I have not had an issue with deer bothering mine in my garden. This variety blooms pink and white midwinter to early spring and is recommended for zones 5 through 9 and grows 12 to 18 inches tall. These are annual begonias that prefer filtered sun to bright shade, grow on average to 6 to 8 inches tall, and are deer resistant. Now you'll find that some can tolerate more part sun and some can tolerate more shade, so make sure to read the tags to make sure you're getting the appropriate variety for your space. My favorites are the begonias with the burgundy leaves, and then these begonias with the white blooms and bright green leaves. These are blooming now and will continue to bloom through summer and fall. Now just look at this next beautiful perennial, which is the Diamond's Blue Delphinium. These bloom in spring, prefer to be planted in sun, and grow 16 to 24 inches tall and 10 to 12 inches wide, and are noted as hardy to USDA Zone 3. Next is stock in this beautiful purple color. This is marked for sun to part shade and blooms in spring and summer and can bloom in fall in cooler weather. These flowers attract bees and butterflies. We have annual dianthus up next, which I covered a bit in my last video about my favorite spring flowers, and I'll link that video at the end of this video as well. These plants prefer sun and grow to an average height of 8 to 10 inches tall. They bloom through summer and attract butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds. Next up are snapdragons, which I absolutely love and have covered in a previous video that I'll link in the description as well. These flowers are recommended for full sun, although I've over-summered mine in part shade through the heat of the summer and had them rebloom in the fall. They grow to 3 to 5 feet tall and 1 foot wide and come in a variety of colors. Next, we have primrose, which is a full sun to part shade annual, blooming in early spring. These grow 6 to 8 inches tall and wide and come in these lovely, vibrant color options. These are also deer resistant and attract butterflies. We have Fiesta Picante Lantana, which is an annual lantana recommended for full sun that will bloom through the summer. It has a slightly trailing growth habit and is noted as evergreen where hardy, which looks to be in USDA zones 10 and 11. This particular variety is noted to grow 18 inches high and 30 inches wide. These are some lovely annuals that I usually actually grow in containers from seed, which I've found to be very easy to grow, and those are cosmos. These flowers are very delicate looking and are so beautiful when they wave in the breeze. They are noted for full sun and attract butterflies. I usually plant mine directly in my potting soil in the summer for late summer blooms, which I'm showing here from last summer. We next have lobelia, which is a full sun to part shade annual that grows to an average of 1 foot tall and wide. These are deer resistant and bloom spring to summer, and I think make a nice addition to containers. There's bacopa, which is a trailing plant that is another nice addition for containers. These bloom spring to summer in full to part sun and grow 4 to 6 inches tall and 12 to 18 inches wide and are also deer resistant. Now, if you've been watching for a while, then you'll be familiar with these next annuals, which are calibrachoa. These are definitely some of my favorite annuals to add to my containers, and I've used them instead of petunias for the last few years because they're so much hardier than I find petunias to be. They bloom all summer and are recommended for full sun and come in a variety of colors. Argyranthemum is a full sun annual that attracts butterflies. This annual grows to a height of 13 to 15 inches and has pretty lacy foliage with daisy-like flowers. Next is osteospermum, and this particular variety is called Blue-Eyed Beauty. This is another full sun annual that I don't believe I've gotten before and honestly ended up picking up a couple while I was at the nursery. These pretty flowers bloom in spring and fall. Next is the ursimum, which is another full sun annual that's noted to add fragrance to the garden. This upright annual grows to a height of 18 to 24 inches and is noted to have a longer bloom season. We have the diamond frost euphorbia hybrid, which is another plant that I've added to several containers in the past and have found it to be a low maintenance, drought tolerant addition, which is generally what I tend to look out for. This is a full to part sun annual that grows 12 to 18 inches tall in a mounding habit and blooms from planting until frost. This is another annual that I tend to grow every summer, both in the ground and in containers, and that's the hardy geranium. This is a full sun to part shade annual that is deer resistant and grows upright to 2 feet tall on average. I've used geraniums in my front walkway garden last year with zinnias, which I'm showing here, and they did really well all throughout the summer. Next, we have ranunculus. Now, I've only tried growing these from bulbs once and had something dig them up before they were actually able to take root. However, I do think I'm going to try again this fall because I think these flowers are beautiful and have a lovely cottage garden feel. Now, one thing that I just wanted to make sure to include here, when I go to nurseries, I always try looking at their pre-planted containers too, just to get some ideas of different color combinations and how they stack the plants. So I just wanted to show you guys some of the beautiful arrangements that I saw here, just to give you some inspiration and ideas for your garden as well. Now they also have violas and pansies in stock, which definitely are blooming now. Now we actually planted those in the fall in my area in Georgia, zone 7B, 8A, and those will last through the winter in my area and then bloom into spring until it starts getting too hot and then it'll die out. But I did want to go ahead and share those different colors with you guys as well. I love the burgundy leaves coupled with the bright orange of the next flower, which is the Canova Bronze Orange Canna Lily. This is a full sun perennial in warmer areas and more of a summer annual in cooler regions. It blooms summer to fall and does well in hot, humid conditions like we have in Georgia. We have another variety of the canna lily, which is the Canova Bronze Peach. Now this one's noted for USDA zones 8 through 11, blooms summer to fall, and has the same growth to 30 to 48 inches tall and 14 to 20 inches wide, with it being a perennial more in warmer areas and an annual in cooler climates. Next are the bright marigolds. These are annuals that I've used both in the ground and in containers for years. They bloom spring to fall and are very low maintenance. They attract pollinators and help detract harmful pests from vegetable gardens and are disease resistant. They prefer full sun and grow 8 to 12 inches tall and are drought tolerant. Next, we have the Kismet Yellow Coneflower. This is a full sun perennial that's noted to have an abundant amount of flowers. This variety blooms earlier than others and will continue until first frost. It's noted for USDA zones 4 through 9 and is a fast grower, quickly reaching to 18 inches tall and 24 inches wide. There's Candy Tuft, which is a great full sun perennial with prolific white blooms that attract butterflies and detract deer. This is a low growing evergreen that blooms in early spring and grows 6 to 8 inches tall. Now, this is definitely another plant that I'm considering adding to my garden, which is the Veronica Georgia Blue. This perennial evergreen grows in a spreading habit that grows to 6 inches tall and 1 foot wide and has these pretty small blue-purple flowers in spring. This plant is also noted as deer resistant and attracts butterflies and is water wise. Now, these cute flowers are so pretty to me. These are English daisies and are noted as a ground cover that blooms late spring to midsummer in colors of red, white, rose, and pink. They grow to 5 inches tall and are recommended for sun or shade in zones 3 through 10. Now we have creeping phlox, which I absolutely love seeing planted in the springtime. This perennial ground cover is recommended for full sun and grows 4 to 6 inches tall. The recommended zones are zones 3 through 8, and it's noted as evergreen with pale to mid-pink blooms in spring. There's also the creeping red phlox, which has evergreen foliage and red blooms during spring. This is deer resistant and drought tolerant and is recommended for full sun down to USDA Zone 4. We have the paparazzi jagger phlox with the purple flowers in spring and then burgundy green stems and foliage that also grows in a spreading habit, growing to 8 to 12 inches tall and 12 to 18 inches wide. This one is also noted as fragrant and prefers full sun. We have the Gerber Garvinia series, which is a beautiful variety of Gerber daisies. These are sun to part shade perennials that grow 12 to 18 inches tall and are deer resistant and are long bloomers, blooming from early spring until frost. They are recommended down to USDA Zone 7 with cold hardiness as 0 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you guys just look at these beautiful flowers. This is the Pink Panther Foxglove. This is recommended for USDA zones 6 through 9 and attracts hummingbirds and butterflies and is also noted to be deer and rabbit resistant. Now it shows that it blooms through summer and into fall. In addition to the coneflower I mentioned earlier, there's also the Evolution Fiesta coneflower. Now this is for full sun and is noted to bloom late spring through fall with beautifully bright coral orange and red hued flowers that quickly reach 18 to 20 inches tall and 18 inches wide. Now we had annual dianthus mentioned earlier in the video and also have perennial dianthus like this vivid bright light dianthus seen here. This perennial is noted to have a wonderful fragrance and is a long bloomer, blooming from spring to fall. It reaches 8 inches tall and 12 inches wide and is deer tolerant. Next we have the Cheddar Pink's Firestar perennial dianthus, which is noted as sweetly scented with vivid red flowers and lovely contrasting green-blue foliage. This is also a long bloomer, again providing a lot for your money, blooming late spring to early fall. It's noted for full sun and grows to 7 inches tall in zones 4 through 9 and attracts hummingbirds and butterflies. Now look at the pretty flowers in our next plant, and it's called the Drumeria Sweet Dreams Sea Pink. This blooms lavender mauve from early spring to frost and grows 10 to 12 inches tall and 12 to 14 inches wide. Next is the Apex Pink Meadow Sage, which also blooms spring to fall, reaching 12 inches tall and 14 inches wide. It's recommended for full sun and down to USDA Zone 4 and is also deer tolerant and attracts pollinators. Now I'm very curious about this next plant, which is the patio peach. I included it in the video because I thought the flowers are so pretty and the foliage on the tag is just lovely, and the concept of having a smaller peach tree is really intriguing to me. If you guys have experience with the patio peach tree, please let me know in the comments. This one is the dwarf bonfire variety, growing to 4 to 5 feet in height and 6 to 8 feet wide. Next is the Iceland Poppy Champagne Bubbles Mix. These pretty poppies are for full to part shade and grow to a height of 15 inches. Lastly, we have the Shades of Pink Viburnum, which I've had for the last couple of years in my garden and absolutely love. It can be grown in sun to shade and grows 4 to 6 feet tall and wide. It has bright pink buds that bloom to blush pink flowers in spring. I'll link my video regarding viburnum in the description if you'd like to learn even more about this awesome shrub. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I am so excited for the spring season and hope that this helped to provide some inspiration and some ideas for you guys as well. I know it certainly did for me. So thank you so much again. Now I'll definitely be doing videos like this in the upcoming weeks, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And you can do that by subscribing and clicking the notification bell so that you can be notified each time I upload a new video. All right, you guys, until next time, happy gardening and goodbye.